I'll call the meeting to order. First thing for today will be approval of the minutes for the meeting approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Dan moves approval of the agenda as stated. All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll move on to the minutes for the April 8th, 2025 meeting. Bill moves approval of the minutes as presented for the April 8th, 2025 meeting. All those in favor? Carried. So first item for consideration this morning is development permit 25/28 and 25/29 Wild Rose 2 Wind Project. Our representatives here for that project. Can gentlemen please take the seats there and introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Council. My name is Sohail Aslam. I'm Project Director with Capstone Infrastructure. We are overseeing the Wild Rose 2 unit project just south of Dunmore here. The project is well under construction, and we are here to secure permits for the last two turbines, T10 and T11, which are part of your agenda today.
Thank you and welcome.
Hi, my name is Joseph Kostash. I'm the construction manager for on-site for the wind farm with Capstone.
Welcome, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the officer's report. Go ahead, Becky.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this proposal is to construct 2 wind towers for the Wild Rose 2 wind project. The owner of the property is the Hatarian Brethren of Murray Lake, and the applicant is Wild Rose 2 Wind, Inc., and the land use district is Agricultural District 2. Wild Rose 2 Incorporated is requesting approval from the Municipal Planning Commission to construct 2 wind turbines as part of the larger wind project previously approved. In 2022, the Municipal Planning Commission approved development permits 2473 to 2479 and 2482 to 24111 inclusive for the construction of 36 wind turbines and 1 meteorological tower. In addition, development permits were also issued for an operations and maintenance building, as well as for a temporary laydown yard. At the time of application, Tower 10 and 11 were excluded from the Alberta Utilities Commission approval due to amendment requirements. The project is located approximately 15 kilometers south of the hamlet of Dunmore in the area of Eagle Butte Road and Township Road 100. The 2 proposed towers are located directly off of Eagle Butte Road and will each require approval for new access approaches to be constructed. Wild Rose 2 Wind has been in ongoing construction for the past year and has a road use agreement in place with Cypress County Public Works. As part of this application, the road use agreement will be required to be updated to include the proposed work area. It is anticipated that construction for the entire project will be completed by the end of July 2025. Upon completion, the wind project will have a total capacity of 192 megawatts, consisting of 38 Siemens Gamesa renewable energy turbine generators. The electrical energy will be transmitted via underground cables to the Elkwater 264S substation, which will then connect to the existing transmission line on the L2Link transmission network. In support of the development permit applications, the applicant has supplied the following subsidiary information: an updated environmental evaluation, a shadow flicker assessment, a noise impact assessment. A traffic management plan as well as an emergency response plan were submitted as part of the previous application for the project. Both plans are still in use during construction, and both included Tower 10 and 11 in the existing project footprint. Wild Rose 2 Wind received approval from the Alberta Utilities Commission for the additional 2 towers on April 22nd, 2025. The land subject of the 2 individual applications are as follows. So development permit application 2528 is on the northwest, well actually I'm sorry, they're both on the northwest 110.5 west of the 4th. In the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09, under the Agricultural District 2, a wind energy facility, commercial, is considered a Class 2 discretionary use requiring approval from the Municipal Planning Commission. Section 12.25, wind energy facility commercial use, states the following. Applicants may submit development permit applications prior to receiving approval from the appropriate provincial or federal agencies. However, the Development Authority shall not approve any development permit application for a wind energy facility until such approvals have been obtained from the applicable provincial or federal agencies. The minimum setback for a wind energy facility from a hamlet shall be 2 kilometers. This setback may be reduced by the Development Authority if the applicant can demonstrate that the facility will not negatively impact existing development for future growth from such impacts as light flicker, noise levels, structural and blade failure, and ice throw. The minimum setback for a facility from a dwelling unit that is located on the title property that the facility is sited shall be 2 times the height of the wind energy facility as measured from the ground to the highest point of the rotor's arc. The minimum setback for a wind energy facility from a dwelling unit that is located on an adjacent separately titled property shall be 4 times the height of the wind energy facility as measured from the ground to the highest point of the rotor's arc. Regardless of subsection 12.25.2, 12.25.3, or 12.25.4, the Development Authority may increase the minimum setback from a dwelling to reduce the impact from the wind energy facility. The minimum setback from any underlying or adjacent county utility or public right-of-way shall be 1 blade length plus 10 meters. The minimum setback for a wind energy facility from a provincial highway shall be as required by Alberta Transportation. Minimum setback from railway facilities shall be as required by the railway company. In all instances, the minimum setback applied shall be in accordance with the Alberta Utilities Commission stipulations or standards. All turbines shall be positioned so that the tip of the turbine's blade is entirely within the property for which the turbine has been placed. All development applications for a wind energy facility shall be accompanied by the same wind power plant application submitted to the AUC for approval to avoid duplicating requirements. Amendments submitted to the AUC shall also be required to be submitted to the county by the applicant. A traffic impact assessment prepared by a qualified engineer shall be provided as part of the development permit application submitted to the county. Outcomes from the TIA shall be used to inform what public roads and approaches require upgrading to meet the Cypress County design guidelines and construction standards. If such upgrades are required, detailed drawings prepared by a qualified engineer shall be submitted to the county. Should a wind energy facility discontinue producing power for a minimum of 2 years, the wind energy facility operator shall be required to provide a status report. A review of the status report by the Development Authority may result in a request for the facility to be decommissioned. Failure to comply with the decommissioning request may result in the issuance of a stop order by the designated officer in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Government Act. The minimum vertical blade clearance from grade shall be 7.5 meters. Employing a horizontal axis rotor unless otherwise required. And to ensure public safety, the Development Authority may require that a security fence with a lockable gate shall surround a tower not less than 1.8 meters in height of the tower, is climbable or subject to vandalism that could threaten tower integrity. No ladder or permanent tower access device shall be located less than 3.7 meters from grade. A lock device shall be installed on the tower to preclude access to the top of the tower, or all of the above be provided, or such additional safety mechanisms or procedures be provided as the Development Authority considers reasonable and appropriate. The use of tubular towers with locked door access will avoid the requirements outlined in the above section. All power lines from the approved wind energy facility to the point of interconnection of the grid shall be underground, except where the Development Authority approves overhead installations. The Development Authority may require a wind energy facility to be finished within a non-reflective mat and in a color which minimizes the obtrusive impact of a wind energy facility. No lettering or advertising shall appear on the towers or blades. As the wind energy facility categorized as a discretionary use, the Development Authority may approve on a case-by-case basis, having regard for information provided in the application, proximity to other land uses in the immediate area, consideration of the cumulative effect of all wind energy facilities approved or proposed in the immediate area, underlying utilities, information received from the circulation of the application and the public, and effects and impacts on municipal roads. The Development Authority may require the applicant to enter into a road use agreement and provide security to the municipality for the purposes relating to disturbance or upgrades to the municipal roads that are needed to access the sites during installation and construction of the turbines and/or substation. A development permit application shall require as a condition of approval that the developer enter into a road use agreement between the county and the developer. The municipality and the company shall enter into a development agreement that specifies the amount, forms, and terms for the security to be provided. The security will be released to the company once the municipality is satisfied that any municipal road issues and concerns have been satisfied as stated within the terms of the development agreement, and any portion of a project not completed within 2 years of approval shall require an application for a time extension. The time extension application shall be considered by the Development Authority and may be granted in 1-year increments. So we did circulate the application to Cypress County Public Works, and they replied that an addendum will be required for the existing road use agreement. In addition, security will be required to be provided for the additional portion of Eagle Butte Road being utilized. And Alberta Transportation replied that the development falls within the permit area of a provincial highway as outlined in the Highways Development and Protection Act. The proposed development, however, will not cause any concern for ongoing highway operations or future highway expansion, therefore issues an exemption from the permit requirements for the development listed above. I did take a couple of site pictures. There's not much to see out there, but wind towers. So this is looking north from Eagle Butte Road from one of the existing access approaches. And we're just looking east here. General location of towers, of course, it's a full quarter section, so. And then just looking south down Eagle Butte Road. So moving on to my recommendation, and I just wanted to make a note that 2 separate motions will be required by the Municipal Planning Commission for development permit application 2528 and 2529. But my recommendation is that MPC approve development permit application 2528 and 2529, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding the facility will be constructed and operated as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. So, Mr. Chairman, these are all standard wind energy facility conditions. So maybe I'll just start at number 9. And if you'd like me to go through 1 through 8, just let me know. But number 9 is all turbines above ground structures and temporary storage equipment are required to meet the minimum setback of 40 meters from the center of any Cypress County public roadway. Number 10, upon decommissioning of the project, a copy of the reclamation certificate are to be submitted to Cypress County. Number 11, the developer is required to submit an updated traffic management plan to accommodate the new tower sites, Tower 10 and Tower 11. The plan is to be submitted and approved by Cypress County Public Works prior to commencement. And number 12 is the developer is required to execute an updated road use agreement with Cypress County to include the new tower site, Tower 10 and Tower 11, and be in compliance with the terms of the agreement to protect Cypress County road infrastructure. The road use agreement is to be executed with Cypress County prior to any loads being hauled on site or any works to enter or upgrade the county road right-of-way. As a requirement of the road use agreement, the developer will be required to provide security to ensure that the developer meets the obligations under the agreement. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Aslam, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
Yeah, so as Becky, outlined, the project is well under construction. We already have approval. We already have approval on the 36 turbines, which are all fully installed and in the process of, being commissioned right now, and some of them are already generating to the grid. These 2 turbines where AUC had withheld the approval last year, we were granted the approval in April, which was provided to the county as condition for approval of these 2 development permits.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion from the Planning Commission? Dan, go ahead.
I just have a question for Public Works. Has there been any issues with the roads to this point?
Mr. Chairman, no, everything has been identified like in bi-weekly inspections. For the most part, it's been taken care of like right away.
Nigel?
Just one, my own clarity. So these two turbines are identical to the other 36 that have already been installed, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. Yeah.
Lloyd?
If discussion's over, I'd like to make the motion to approve it. I would like to thank Becky for a real detailed report. When I saw it on the agenda, because of the last time, just to let you know, I'm the counselor for Ward 3 out there. I got calls about those two turbines. And I was glad to see that you reached out to the little plume again and got that letter.
Yes.
And I think everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quite pleased.
So Lloyd moves approval of, we'll do them one at a time, of development permit 25/28 as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Are you moving 25/29 as well, Lloyd? Sure. Okay. So Lloyd moves approval of 25/29 as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permits have been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there is a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within the 21-day period, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks, Becky. Thanks, Lee, Kelly, Ingrid.
Next item for consideration today is development permit 2561. Mr. Rob Stair, are you in attendance? Would you take one of the chairs, please? Okay, again, this is development application 25/61. Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a proposal to construct a 50 by 40 shop with a size relaxation of 400 square feet and demolish existing greenhouse and detached garage. This is a Ward 7 application for an accessory building, as you said, number 2561. The owner of the property is Vernon and Linda Hilmo, and the applicant is Rob Stair. This is located at Plan 9611427, Block 2, Lot 6, which is number 2, 6223A, Highway 3. Property size is 2.52 hectares, and the land use district is Country Residential District 1. So the applicant is requesting approval from the Municipal Planning Commission to construct a 2,000 square foot shop for personal use. This results in a size relaxation of 400 square feet. There is an existing detached garage that's 936 square feet in size, and a greenhouse that's 168 square feet in size. The property is located in a subdivision along Highway 3, approximately 500 meters southwest of the City of Medicine Hat boundary. As the application indicates, the proposed use of the shop is for storage. The applicant has also indicated that he will commit to the partial removal of the existing detached garage and removal of the greenhouse in order to adhere to the total building area of all accessory buildings as required in the land use bylaw. In accordance with section 16.6.1 of the land use bylaw, the development authority shall review each development permit application and determine its compliance with this bylaw. When a development permit application includes variance requests or discretionary uses, the Development Authority shall assess the application as outlined based on the following criteria in accordance with Section 646 of the Municipal Government Act. That it does it unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land. The proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for that land or building in the land use bylaw. In the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09, under the Country Residential District 1, it states that an accessory building shall not exceed 1,600 square feet in area, and the total building area of all accessory buildings shall not exceed 2,800 square feet. I did circulate the application, and Cypress County Public Works replied they have no concerns. Town of Red Cliff replied they have reviewed the proposed development and offers no comments. City of Medicine Hat had no concerns. And Alberta Transportation replied that in reviewing the application, the proposed development falls within the permit area of a provincial highway as outlined in the Highways Development and Protection Act. The proposed development, however, will not cause any concern for ongoing highway operation or future highway expansion. Transportation and Economic Corridors therefore issues an exemption for the permit requirements for the development listed. So I was out and took some pictures of the property. So this was the structure that I had as a greenhouse. It had shown up as on a real property report as a greenhouse, but it does appear to just be a shed. So this would be removed by the applicant. And then we're looking northeast with the proposed building site between those bushes and the white fence. So we're looking east with the proposed building site to the left, the existing residence, and the existing detached garage that the applicant would partially demolish to meet that 2,800 square feet. And then a proposed building site there, we're looking north. And then west at the entrance to the property, that existing detached garage on the left, proposed building site on the right. And this is just from the back of the property, so we're looking north, residence, and the existing detached garage. And again, back of the property, just looking west. I think that's it. So moving on to our recommendations. The first one is that MPC approved development permit application 2561, subject to the following conditions and with the understanding that it will be constructed as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the development officer or municipal planning commission. Conditions 1 through 7 are standard conditions. So I'll jump to number 8, which is subject to the partial removal of the detached garage and the removal of the greenhouse by September 30th, 2025, in order to be compliant with the maximum total building area of 2,800 square feet, as stated in the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09 in the Country Residential District 1. And number 9, a size relaxation of 400 square feet for the shop. And my second option, Mr. Chairman, or I guess it's a first option, is that MPC refuse development permit application 2561, as the proposal does not comply with the maximum accessory building size of 1,600 square feet, as stated in the Country Residential District 1 in the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09. And that is my report.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Stair, would you like to speak to the application at this time?
Is it on? Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess, thank you for the summary there. One clarification, I believe that building that you indicated as a greenhouse actually is the pump house of an old well. So if the well is still producing, I think we would like to try and keep that building just to water grass, but we will adhere to the total size of the accessory buildings. And just want to state, like, we are asking for a bigger than the bylaw states, but I think part of the motivation to do that is so we don't have, like, there's a lot of other acreages out there with a whole bunch of outbuildings for storage and stuff, and we're trying to just keep it to one building, just for simplicity and tidiness of the property, so.
So Becky indicated a partial demolition of the existing garage?
Yeah, the garage is not in great shape. I don't, to be honest, I didn't look at it closely. I don't even know if it's all concrete floor or not, but I have committed, like, we will remove partial or all of it, it depends on the condition, but to meet the size, total size requirement for the bylaws for the accessory buildings.
Again, what was the size of that garage? Can you?
Yeah, it was 936 square feet was the garage, and 168 was if it is the pump house. So if he does get approval for the 2,000 square feet, then he still has that 800 square feet left for total of all accessory buildings. So the idea would be to get rid of whatever portion of building he has to meet that 2,800.
I don't think we've ever seen partial removal of a building to comply.
Well, it's been added onto, like there was, like it wasn't built all at once. You can see the original garage and then it was added on the side, so.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, open the floor to discussion. Dan?
I don't have a problem with what he's trying to do because we've done it with other acreages around. I believe we need more clarification on what size of that garage is going to be left there. Because when we just say a portion, you come back and just, oh, all this was good, so we left it up. Well, that doesn't work. We got to keep it at the 2,800 square feet.
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't know how to do it, but we need to get that clarified in here so there's no argument in the future.
Okay, so we can do one of two things then. We could postpone it with the clarification in the garage, or if you commit to tearing down that entire garage, then we could probably move forward at that, if the motion is such.
But the whole thing isn't fair because it costs so much now to build stuff, so.
Yeah. Yep.
We just need to figure out how to get that 300 square feet out of that garage.
We actually get possession of the property this Friday, so, I mean, we can have access to take a closer look at the condition of it and.
So do we want to postpone that?
So would you prefer a postpone? Well, I think. Pardon me? Kayleen, go ahead.
Through the chair, just another idea, and I think Becky's already got it covered off by condition number 8. She's got that the maximum overall size of those buildings can't go over 2,800 square feet. Part 2 of this is that Mr. Stair is also going to require a demolition permit to be issued by the county. So I think at that time, Becky, in reviewing that development application, will ensure that that demolition is meeting the intent of the Planning Commission's condition. And if it's a case that the demolition isn't meeting those criteria, we would bring back the subdivision at a later date for Planning Commission to review it. So I think that's kind of the safeguard to ensure that Mr. Stair demolishes what he's saying that he'll demolish.
Thank you.
I'm okay with it as long as we're covered. I know we get ourselves in these predicaments and it costs a lot of money for lawyers' fees to straighten stuff out in the future. That's why I'm trying to dot the i's and cross the t's.
Okay, anything else?
I'm good with that condition.
You go with that? Okay, motions, if anyone has a motion. Okay. So Dustin moves approval of development application 25/61 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within the 21-day period, the permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you. Okay, next for consideration, subdivision application 25CY05, Sandbox Farms. Mr. Lobb. Just take one of the chairs, please. Okay, Becky, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is to subdivide a 1.181, no, I'm going to start over. To subdivide a 1.81 hectare parcel from an unsubdivided quarter section to create a separate title. This is a Ward 7 agricultural subdivision, number 25CY05. The owner of the property is Sandbox Farms, Inc., and the applicant is Benchmark Geomatics on behalf. The legal land description is Southwest 2312-7 west of the 4th, and this application is intended to subdivide a 1.81 hectare or 4.4 acre parcel from an unsubdivided quarter section for the purposes of creating a separate title. The remainder of the agricultural title contains irrigated cropland and is 63.2 hectares or 156.3 acres in size. The property is located along Range Road 72, approximately 1.4 kilometers south of Highway 523, and there are no oil or gas wells within the proximity of the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision is located on a dry corner and contains a shop that currently supports the farming operation. The proposed subdivision gains direct and immediate access from an existing access approach from Range Road 72. A second approach is located at the north end of the property, which gives access to the remnant agricultural title from Range Road 72. There is a canal right-of-way that borders the west and south boundary of the proposed parcel. However, it has been accounted for when creating the parcel to ensure building setbacks and access requirements are being met. The applicant has formed a company with 2 other farmers to help offset the high costs associated with the equipment and buildings required to grow potatoes. The intent of the subdivision is to sell the proposed title to the joint venture company so that financing can be secured for the expansion of the agricultural business. It is anticipated that the expansion to the building will take place by August 2025 to accommodate this year's contracted acres. The subdivision will result in the first title to be taken out of the quarter section. A residence could still be developed on the remainder of the agricultural title, and the proposed subdivision is located outside of the tri-area intermunicipal development plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve if one lot is to be created from a quarter section of land. Part 2.9, Road Access of the Subdivision Regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Part 14, Distance from a highway, states that a subdivision authority shall not in any municipality other than a city approve an application for subdivision if the land is within 1.6 kilometers of the center line of a highway right-of-way, unless the land is contained within an area structure plan and the proposed use of land is permitted under that plan. Section 4.1.2, Conservation of Irrigated Farmland of the Municipal Development Plan, states that the counties shall protect and retain irrigated farmland for agricultural purposes to support the viability of agricultural operations and preservation of improved and productive agricultural farmland. Section 4.1.8, Value-Added Agriculture, states that the county shall allow small-scale value-added agriculture and agricultural-related services and industries to locate within agricultural areas. Section 4.1.11 states that the county should be flexible in subdivision and development practices to support innovative and emerging agricultural sectors that complement and are non-intrusive to existing agricultural practices. This may include supporting smaller tracts of agricultural land to be subdivided to support such sectors. Section 4.1.22 subdivision agriculture states that the county may support the subdivision of larger tracts of land used for extensive dryland agricultural operations into smaller parcels used for intensive and irrigated agricultural operations. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. When we circulated this application, Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvements associated with the property. Cypress County Public Works had no comments. Apex replied they have no objections. Fortis replied that they have reviewed the plan and determined no easement is required. TELUS replied they have no concerns. St. Mary's River Irrigation District requires that the following conditions are met. The lands currently have 153 irrigation acres. The current parcel size is 156.35 acres. If 4.5 acres are subdivided off, there will not be sufficient land base for the irrigation acres. SMERD may require that irrigation acres be moved from the lands, and the applicant will need to review with SMERD prior to endorsement of the subdivision. The turnout for the agricultural irrigation acres is in the southwest corner of the subdivided parcel. A remote delivery agreement will be required to be in place prior to endorsement of the subdivision. Permanent irrigation acres will need to remain on the primary parcel. If the proposed subdivided lot wishes to use water from the district for the yard site, a household purposes agreement must be signed with the district prior to any water use. All works, easements, etc. involved to provide water to the proposed subdivision will be at the landowner's expense. And in order for SMERD to execute the consent to register subdivision, any outstanding balances owed by the applicant will need to be paid in full. No comments were received from Westside Water Co-op at the time of writing this report. Equus replied they have no objections. City of Medicine Hat Environment, Land and Gas Production Department replied with the following comments. They provided a map displaying the gas facilities within proximity to the proposed subdivision. Surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way and within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat wellhead unless the landowner applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator and the city for a setback reduction. Any ground disturbances or surface improvements within 30 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas wells will require a crossing or proximity agreement. Scenic View Water Co-op replied they have no concerns. And Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors replied that, and this is south with Range Road 72 to the right there. And then just, we're standing out in the irrigation pivot, just looking back at the area proposed to be subdivided. So, Mr. Chairman, our recommendation is that MPC move to approve subdivision 25CY05 subject to the following conditions. Number one, it is the developer's responsibility to enter into any necessary agreements with St. Mary's River Irrigation District. The developer will be required to provide written evidence that the requirements of SMERD have been satisfied prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And number two, our standard condition, the developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that is my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Becky. Roger, would you like to speak to your application at this time? Okay. All right. Open the floor to discussion. Go ahead, Bill.
I guess my question would be regarding the irrigation part of it. I just know that this is kind of a major concern for the county, and would it not be proper that that permission would be given before we would approve this subdivision?
Thank you. Go ahead, Dustin.
think I can answer that one for you, Bill. Being, why that parcel would have that many water rights on it would be from where it was in like wheel line irrigation in the past. And just knowing a moderate bit about Mr. Wobb's business, I think he could probably transfer to one of his other titles instead of it being on this one. Especially when you're talking like an acre and a half like that. That's not very much.
Yeah, I agree. Water rights are not a liability.
No.
So it's not, given the past, there's not a excess of them kicking around. So I think we're pretty safe that he could either, I mean, you can amend your watering to add that extra 1.5 acres to that parcel as far as water application. So I'm not terribly concerned with that either at this time. If it was splitting it in half and he was taking half the water, maybe, but anything else? Okay, Dustin moves approval of subdivision application 25 CY05 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making the arrangements to have the subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles by your surveyor for the registration of the separate title. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you.
For your information. And after any questions, the recommended motion is that the commission accepts the planner's report as information. I think the biggest items coming out of this month's report is that we did get the decision of the Land and Property Rights Tribunal on the construction of a shop just to the west of us here in proximity to the Ross Creek. The tribunal has upheld the appeal while also inserting an additional condition for the completion of a geotech report to be completed prior to construction. So I think we're happy with the outcome of that decision. We're happy that the tribunal put appropriate conditions attached to that permit. And secondly, the tri-area IDP has been formally adopted by all 3 municipalities. So the new IDP bylaw is in effect. Any previous, and that involves reducing the rural development area on the east side of the city of Medicine Hat. Presently, the IDP boundary extends east out to the Highway 41 and 41A intersection. And council's opted to pursue a further amendment that will reduce that boundary on the east side down to a mile distance from the city of Medicine Hat boundary. And reason being, they really have no strategic growth plans out east. So any lands within that IDP boundary being taken out will be considered under the county's general municipal development plan. And I think that's all I've got for the day, Mr. Chair, so happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kayleen. I'll open the floor to discussion and questions. Nothing present. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Have we heard back anything on that approach for the church on the 120?
Not for quite some time, sorry, through the chair. I did note, though, the property is for sale. I'm not sure what's going on there, but the church had worked with Public Works last year, and I think that they've met the requirements that Public Works has set out for them. But we can follow up in that regard and bring that back to the following meeting, if Planning Commission would like that.
Thank you. Nigel, did you have something?
No, just got to move.
Oh, okay. Anything else? So Nigel moves approval of the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So this one was scheduled for 9:40 or 10:45, so we've got a few minutes. We can, I guess we'll take a bit of a recess until we hear from Benchmark. We'll move forward. So again, this is subdivision application 25 CY07. I was hoping somebody would be here. Okay. Go ahead, Kayleen.
Thank you through the chair. And yes, understanding that our representative from Benchmark Geomatics is not here. However, I think we're confident in moving forward with presenting the application today. And if there's a compelling reason, we can always postpone this to the next meeting after the presentation. So we'll continue on. So subdivision application 25 CY07 is submitted by His Majesty the King and Right of Alberta and TD Bank. And the applicant of this application is Benchmark Geomatics on their behalf. The legal land description is located at Plan 0414039, Block 1, Lot 1. And this is just on the south side of the Trans-Canada Highway, south side of the hamlet of Suffield. This application is intended to subdivide and consolidate a 15-acre parcel to create a lot boundary adjustment. The purpose of the subdivision is to accommodate the incorrect placement of an established residence and yard site. The remainder of the agricultural title contains dry land pasture and is 119 acres in size, while the existing subdivision parcel is vacant and is 15 acres in size. The proposed subdivision is located along Range Road 93, approximately 160 meters south of the hamlet of Suffield. Both the proposed parcel and remnant agricultural title have existing access from Range Road 93, and there are no oil or gas wells within 100-meter proximity. I'd like to just take a moment here to explain to the Planning Commission what's going on with the subdivision here and kind of explain some of the line work that we've got. So I'll just use the screen in behind the Commission here. So when we're looking at this diagram, you'll see that there's the thick hashed line that's kind of coming around the quarter section. If you don't mind just scrolling down a little bit, Ingrid. So that thick black line here is encompassing the remnant quarter section. And within the boundary of that quarter section, you'll see that we've got this rectangular shaped parcel that's abutting the railway here. This is the existing subdivision boundary that was subdivided in 2004. At the time, the residence that you'll see down further on the south here was intended to be built on this 2004 subdivision plan. However, it was not. It was built in the incorrect location. So what this subdivision is intending to do is essentially a straight across land swap. So there's no additional acres that are being taken out. We're essentially redrawing the property line coming south over to the west to accommodate that residence. And then the remnant of that 2004 subdivision plan will be consolidated back into the quarter section. So in 2004, subdivision plan 0414039 was registered with Alberta Land Titles to create a separate parcel acreage. In 2009, a development permit was issued for a move-on residence. Upon issuance of the development permit, the owner of the acreage at the time did not establish the home on the appropriate land. This resulted in a significant encroachment, with the home being established on unpatented land, being grazing lease at the time. Ownership of the vacant acreage parcel has since been transferred to TD Bank. The remnant agricultural land containing the residence remains to be under control of His Majesty the King, and this parcel now has title, which is now making it eligible to accomplish a subdivision. This facilitates the ability to proceed with the approval and registration of a new subdivision plan to correct the encroachment, and this proposed subdivision facilitates a land exchange, and there are no additional titles that are being proposed. Any questions so far? Under provincial legislation, the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 654 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority shall not approve an application for subdivision unless all outstanding property taxes on the land proposed to be subdivided have been paid to the municipality where the land is located, or that satisfactory arrangements have been made to the subdivision authority. Section 663 states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land proposed subject of a subdivision to provide reserve if reserve was previously provided. Part 2.9 Road Access of the Subdivision Regulation of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct and legal access to a road. And Part 18 Distance from a Highway states that a subdivision authority shall not, in a municipality other than a city, approve an application for subdivision if the land is within 1.6 kilometers of the center line of a highway right-of-way. Section 4.1.24 Land Use Policies of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county may support the subdivision of an existing farmstead or single vacant parcel if the following conditions are met. The agricultural parcel remains the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision will not impact or hinder the agricultural use on the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision parcel size for an existing farmstead is based on the area incorporating the farm dwelling and accessory buildings. The subdivision of the existing farmstead retain the same agricultural land use as the remnant, and both the existing farmstead and the remnant ag parcel have direct access or a shared easement agreement. When we circulated the application, Cypress County Public Works replied that they have no comments or concerns. Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvement plans associated with the property. Cypress County Assessment Services replied that money in place of municipal reserve is not owing. TELUS replied that a utility right-of-way is required to provide service to the proposed subdivision. Equus replied that they have no power lines in proximity and therefore they have no concerns. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area. No easement is required. Apex replied that they have no objection. Alberta Culture and Tourism, or the Government of Alberta, replied that in this instant, Historical Resource Act approval is not necessary and submission of a historical resource application is not required. And Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors replied that the requirements of Section 18 and 19 are not met. However, they anticipate minimal impact on the highway, and they grants approval for the subdivision authority to vary the requirements of those sections of the regulation. Recommendation through the chairman is subject to 3 conditions: that the Planning Commission move to approve subdivision 25CY07, provided that the developer is required to consolidate the remnant portion of Plan 0414039 Block 1 Lot 1 with the balance of the remainder of the agricultural title to create one contiguous parcel. The consolidation is to be registered in conjunction with the registration of the subdivision plan. Number 2, the developer is responsible to enter into a utility right-of-way agreement with TELUS. Number 3, the developer is required to pay any outstanding property taxes prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And lastly, number 4, the developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kayleen. Okay, so the land swap makes sense in one way, but, you know, I do have a concern. When TD Bank owns land, they get a land swap. When Dave Yeast built a house on leased land south of the Cypress Hills, Alberta made him move the house. So I have a little bit of a equity question going into this. That being said, they are trading land, but looks like they're going to be trading more leased land than there is for deeded. But yeah, that's my rant.
Fair rant.
Well, I mean, it's, why are you treated differently if you're a corporation than if you're a person?
I think it's in our best interest not to.
Through the chair, I think this has been a long-standing issue for many years, and I think that the county is probably just happy to see a resolution to this long-term concern.
Well, another issue is we're supposed to fix the fact that the TD Bank didn't do their due diligence when they lent on this property. Isn't it up to them to determine what they're taking security on, that it's actually titled where the house is?
Through the chair, I can't speak to any of the legalities behind this. We're just dealing with the subdivision that's in front of us, essentially to do the land exchange.
I guess those are questions to the ether. Is this the Buddy Ranch by chance? Okay, I remember doing this back in '04. Dating myself. Okay. Dustin moves approval of subdivision application 25CY07. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I guess I don't have to speak to anybody on this.
Evidently, Wade doesn't have an interest with TD Bank.
Yeah. I'm not a cartel. I don't deal with them.
Through the chair, we should still read the outcome of the decision, just for any public viewers, please.
Your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now make you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements to have the approved subdivision area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles by your surveyor for registration of the separate plan. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner to discuss them after today's meeting. Okay, I think that's it for today. I adjourn the meeting.